everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Here at Disability Hub MN, we want to make sure that you have information and resources that you need to help you understand your options. So with that in mind, today we've invited Barb Zimke with the PACER Center to join us and talk about how PACER can help you plan ahead to find success in the future. So first, let's start with introductions. I am Lauren Gower, and I work with Disability Hub MN as a community capacity builder. Barb, could you introduce yourself and let us know your role in PACER?
Sure. And first of all, thanks so much to Disability Hub. We love working in partnership with you because we're all trying to do the same kind of work to support individuals with disabilities and make sure that they have every opportunity to be able to share their gifts and abilities and realize their aspirations and live among us in the community. So it's just a pleasure to get to work together. I refer a lot of people to Disability Hub and DB 101 and other resources. So I appreciate so much you're giving us this opportunity. If you're somebody who just stopped by and saw this live video and thought, should I click on it? I hope that you will stay with us long enough to get at least one piece of really good information that you could take a next step on to help you or your loved one go towards their future goals. And I will start by just sharing a little bit about who I am and why I'm here. So I am here for PACER Center, which is our state's federally funded through, and the federal funds that we receive come through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That's just a portion of our funding, but it's our core service. We are designated as the Center for Children with all disabilities, so we're not disability specific, who are accessing special education services. We've been around for 45 years and have just responded to family needs, requests for help, and now have 30 different projects, including our Assignment Technology Center, our National Parent Center on Transition and Employment, our Health Center. There's a variety of things, but I'm representing PACER today so that you will find out how we can help you as an individual with a disability, any disability. Basically from birth up through late 20s is our sweet spot. And my role at PACER is specifically in the building the bridge to the future part. We realized we were doing a pretty good job of helping families while their students were still in school, but then they faced a transition cliff. And so our part of the world at PACER that I kind of co-direct and oversee, but really just work collaboratively with our transition team, includes our health center staff, our housing project staff, as well as those who specialize in the ADA and laws and how that applies as youth and young adults transition to post-secondary ed, employment, community living. But we do it, and again, our sweet spot or our secret sauce, I think at PACER, is that all of the advocates and transition specialists are also either parents of, or in a few cases, siblings of individuals with disabilities. So we don't just have the expertise in the field, we have the lived experience and continue in my case to have that lived experience so that we relate to parents on that level. So I came to PACER about 20 years ago and joined the special ed advocate team. And then about 5 years ago shifted as my son also shifted, because he's my inspiration. When you say what fuels my work, it's Brandon. And if you could meet Brandon, he'd fuel your work too. His ability to be positive in the face of obstacles, to be persistent, to be authentic, to be giving, to his famous phrase whenever anybody asks him if he can do something is, if he can't, he'll say, not yet.
Not yet.
And I just love that. It's always his response. And he has proven all my early fears and concerns to be not legitimate now, but They were at the time. So Brandon is what fuels my work, and not just Brandon. Over the last 20 years, the privilege of working with families and young adults and children, again, who just surprise us with their ability to go beyond the obstacles that I face in life and really contribute in such significant ways. So that's what fuels my work. They say you should get a job based on what breaks your heart. What breaks my heart, and always has, even as a little kid myself, was somebody eating lunch by themselves, being left out, not getting picked for the team, not having the opportunity to participate like everybody else. So this work is a good fit for both who I am and for my ability to tap into Brandon as the barometer of keep it real, keep it relevant, make it work for the individual.
Great.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, as Brandon is sort of part of your inspiration and, going through the stages all the way from childhood to, transition age to young adult, how does PACER's work help youth and young adults with disabilities and their families as well?
Well, I love quotes. So I brought a quote from Albert Einstein because I figure he's pretty much smarter than me. And he said, oh shoot, where did I write the quote now? This is live, so you get to see me looking in my notes. Okay, I'm going to come back to the quote. But this is what he said. Know where to find the information and how to use it. That's the secret of success. And when I think of why we're doing this, live right now, what we're trying to do is give you information. But information by itself doesn't help us. You can go on the internet and find a ton of stuff. It's the how to use it part that's such a key. So the way PACER primarily helps families, the young adults, the youth with disabilities, is providing information in ways people can understand, and then helping through personal interaction, so you're not just out there on your own, and help you navigate connecting the dots between this information and the desired goal or outcome, which is what a new year kind of brings to mind for all of us is, what are our goals and how do we determine them? So PACER helps families learn about options, which is huge. One of the main things I realized as a parent first, and then as an advocate, is just how frustrating it is to not have a menu of options, to try to figure it out yourself, like going to a restaurant without menus and the waitress comes and says, what do you want? And you say, well, what do you have? And so I think a big part that we help families with in our project is called Inspiring Possibilities. If you don't know what the possibilities are, you can't have those goals for the future because you can't imagine it. And if you don't know routes and how to get on them, like I'd be lost without my GPS. So I think we're like a navigator, and we also speak special education and agency language as a second language. So a primary way we help families is we take this complex system stuff and translate it for them into language they can understand and use. And those words are powerful when you're asking for services or support. So those are some real primary ways, but the tangible part that families need to know who aren't familiar with us is that all of our services, with the exception of, I believe, the membership in our technology library, which is not a large fee, but has to cover mailing stuff back and forth. Everything that we do or provide for Minnesota families is free. Our workshops are always free. Our publications, I'm going to recommend, and I have a link to a couple of books, guidebooks for families that take you all through the special ed process for transition planning. Make sure you know what to ask for. Make sure you know what your rights are. Make sure you know what your child's rights are. So we have those materials free. We do workshops, tons of them. Last year we answered 38,000 requests for help. We had 26,000 people come to our workshops, which of course were virtual last year. We do presentations and training, both professionals. Our main goal is not to solve problems for families, but to equip families to solve the problem, to become the best advocate they can be for their loved one, and to help them help the loved one become the best self-advocate that they can be. And we do that through emails and phone coaching and advising, as well as those more formal things. Our website is like a library you never imagined. And I will just say this quick, and then I know I got to kind of move on. But what I loved about PACER as a parent before I came to PACER, and why I use them, was we stand on our head and go way beyond what a normal person would do to make sure that our materials are accurate and up to date, and hopefully written in a way that both other professionals really appreciated who work in, let's say, education. They don't know county stuff necessarily, and vice versa, in ways that people can understand. So we really work hard to be a source of, if you're not sure if the information's accurate, we'll try to get you that accurate information. And so that's all things that we can do. And we do, our health project helps with health plans and everything related to MA, insurance, waivers, that kind of stuff. Our housing project helps families understand funding for housing, options for housing, how you get started. And we're gonna have a 3-part series coming up on that with panels that give you possibilities so that you can start to imagine what you often can't imagine when your young person is 14 or 15, which is what their future will look like when the school bus no longer comes. I think I covered all the basic stuff. So basic stuff is, we make sure that you know what your rights are, what the possibilities are, and then we help you connect the dots to make some pathways to those resources to support the young person with a disability or that adult who needs support.
And I really like to just mentioning that, all of this information is out there, but what do you do with it? And that idea of a menu and seeing the possibilities on the menu, but not knowing what they are, or not even having a menu at all. And that's sort of your role in kind of getting people to understand the information that they're seeing and to use that to the best, to better and to reach their goals, which is great. And I think it's something that we share in common as agencies, as sort of our mission, or our sort of reason for doing what we do, is to help people kind of navigate those difficult programs and situations that they find themselves in. So with that being said, let's move on from maybe youth and young adults to that very specific time in everyone's life, the transition to adults. And how does that look, or how does PACER kind of help students sort of transition past that graduation point or turning 18? How can families maybe prepare a plan for that?
Yeah, and that's a huge question. It's a seismic shift, both for the student and the family. And when we say like at age 18, we're kind of looking at 18 or when the student graduates or exits special education. So for a lot of the students who are going to benefit from, agencies providing supports and services, they may be in school till they're 21.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of us, when we don't know what's out there, like when you don't know what a bill is, sometimes you don't want to open the envelope because then you have to deal with that situation. So there is a tendency to kind of keep pushing out the actual bridge, building the bridge to something. And so what's really important is you want to start where you're at. So it's never too early to start planning for adult transition, because many of the young people need a lot more time to develop the skills that they're going to need to navigate those higher expectations. So it's never too early, really seriously, to prepare them for what's going to be a huge shift. And part of that huge shift is that special education is a mandated civil right to a free, appropriate public education if you have a disability. And while they struggle with resources, schools can't say, sorry, wait list, we can't serve you. And they also have to find you. There's child find within special education law. So if they suspect a disability, they have to reach out to you. There's one system that covers lots of areas of your child's life. And there is a case manager at the school level and a team that has to look at all of that. And so that's why we try to help families maximize transition planning in the IEP while you have that.
While you have it.
Because that's going away. And as a parent who's navigated interagency services and supports for my son for 30 years, in many cases, the parent, and we use the word parent, I should have said this earlier, it's not always the biological parent.
Right.
It's that adult, trusted adult who isn't necessarily a stranger getting paid to be a case manager, but it's that person that supports and shares the high expectations for that individual and helps advocate for and make sure that they can receive it. So that parent is going to suddenly, or that adult, take on really bad news is if you have multiple agencies involved and you're trying to read stuff that's from the federal government, and you're an individual with an intellectual disability or not, like my husband, it's daunting and you need someone to help you with it. And so the parent becomes the real case manager in many cases. So they need to be preparing for that at the same time that they're preparing their young person to shift into a role of whether they have support or not, they're going to be viewed as the owner of whatever that is, the owner of their work plan, their post-secondary education plan. Even if they get supports, they need to be ready to have a voice and a choice and understand their disability and the impact of their disability. And that takes time. So the earlier you start, the better, because the adult world will have separate systems without overall case coordination. And with the shortage we have in direct service professionals, including, I will say, even special educators with huge caseloads, if you're relying on somebody now to tell you what you need, because in special ed, they needed to find you and tell you, and parents always say, surely if there was something my son or daughter could benefit from, they would be telling me about it. No, that isn't, no, you really need to know what it is. Parents will say, well, I didn't know what I could ask for. So that's, as they're going to turn 18, it's never too early, but it's never too late. If they're 28, it's not too late to find out, how do I know what's out there, how to access it? And what's going to change is the laws that govern the delivery of services. And again, you have to understand new laws and new rights for your son or daughter, and you need to understand it so you can support them in understanding that. So the laws change, there's wait lists, there's multiple systems, there's, for many people, a difficult aspect is that programs and agencies and sometimes even nonprofits and advocacy organizations sometimes want to make it a one size fits all. Like what we don't do at PACER is tell you what you should do. Like you should not get guardianship. No one should get guardianship. We don't have agendas. What we do is we try to say supported decision-making is an option. less restrictive alternatives. But for the family that's saying, we've explored all this, we would also want to tell them about guardianship. So there is no one size fits all. Advocates, autistic adults who are, brilliant and strong advocates for themselves versus nonverbal, very low cognitive ability individuals don't want the same thing necessarily as far as how things are provided. But I think, we try, what I'm trying to say is we all need to be careful not to do anything where we are imposing our own judgment on what adult living should look like for anyone, including individuals with disabilities, as organizations. And so we want to equip families who are usually part of an individual's life, because we're mainly interdependent, not independent, all of us, to support that person as an adult. And that's going to look way different. And you don't want to be caught by surprise. So this is where families can prepare now, and they can start preparing really young. And I don't know if you want me to talk about that.
Well, I mean, so speaking of preparation, like, are there predictors for positive outcomes for future success? Are there things that families and young adults can do to kind of put themselves on the best path towards success, I guess?
Absolutely. So I got kind of lost there, because talking about the adult world it's basically talking about the rest of your life, which you can't do in 28 hours.
How much time do you got?
Right. But this is what's interesting. There's like a real lack of research in the field because so much is individual, but there are 3 key indicators of adult success as far as reaching goals around employment and independent living. And they're quite significant and sometimes quite surprising. And there was a long federally funded transition survey that was done over time. And this is what came out of that. A key to adult success and successful outcomes is high expectations for that individual. And the family's expectations are primary, because those are often then communicated to the other people who work with that individual. So again, how can we at PACER help families have those high expectations? You can't just tell people, well, they can be president. That doesn't help a little kid, but you can give them a vision for that. So that high expectation is huge. It's a huge factor. The other factor that's really important is family involvement. So one of the shifts to adult services and at age 18 is away from family involvement. And there is inappropriate family involvement, and then there's appropriate and effective family involvement. And but even for adults, when you see success stories, I've never seen one yet where in the interview somewhere there wasn't some family member who was helping this young person at least get the help they needed in order to reach their goals. Family involvement is huge. Don't take family out of a person. There's a person-centered plan. It's very rare that family wouldn't be a component of a person-centered plan. So that's huge. So high expectations, family involvement, and then one concrete indicator is paid or at least meaningful work experience before you leave public education. So in high school or transition program. And that would be in inclusive or integrated settings. Some kind of work experience is the one real tangible predictor of competitive integrated employment in the community as an adult, or meaningful employment. So we have to all work harder on that. And parents and families get so concerned with, I just got to get them through 8th grade, right? Or I just got to do what we need to do to graduate. It's hard to hold that at the same time with, what about in 5 years?
Sure.
And what do we need to do now for that? And what you do need to do is not focus just on academics,
Sure.
because acing it on the history test in high school for an
Doesn't
individual with
translate
autism
necessarily.
may not translate into, or even a college degree in history is great, but if you haven't learned any skills around self-advocacy, determination, how to work with people, teamwork, it will go nowhere. So those are all important components of, this. What you can do to prepare for the future is really daunting to families, and that's why we don't want them to feel alone. And PACER wants to give you help and hope. It's a lot. It's a lot to do now while you're doing then, but it's both really necessary. And if you're not communicating to a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old the importance of work, and then you're all of a sudden at age 21 after a segregated 18 to 21-year-old transition program saying, but you ought to be able to live, work, and learn in the community, we need to be setting those expectations just like we do for children without disabilities.
Oh yeah, continuing to have that what do you want to be when you grow up talk all
Absolutely.
throughout life.
Absolutely. And I always say it's not like you have to change the destination. I wanted for our son, and the families that I talk to want for their child with a disability the same thing they want for the sibling who might not have a disability. So the destination doesn't have to be different. What has to usually be different is the route to get there and perhaps what it looks like. And so families can start early. I always say have a plan A and plan B. If you don't start moving, you can't balance. We know that from riding a bike. You can't wait till you're all balanced and you know exactly what's going to work and then start riding. You start riding and then you get balanced. So pick a destination that you hope for, that your son or daughter's strengths and preferences, interests seem to align with, their personality, character, values, soft skills are all probably weigh far more heavily than their deficits do in this discussion. And then help them pick a destination and start pedaling. And along the way, you might have to change the route. And it may take longer, probably will. I always say plan for twice as long as you expect, especially if public agencies are involved. Get on waiting lists, because if they're waiting lists, usually it's because it's desirable and you can figure out later whether or not you're going to take advantage of that, which is what happened to us with a housing choice voucher that my son is able to use to live in an apartment in the community with a roommate. And if I hadn't gotten him on waiting lists 3 times, he might, not have had that opportunity. Get on waiting lists, act as if it's possible until you find out that with everything you can do, it's not. And then don't give up the dream, give up the way you reach the dream.
Wow, that's great. That's really powerful. So, we're nearing the end here, but do you have any other sort of top tips or words of wisdom that might have come from patient or parent advocates or transition specialists or anybody in terms of future planning and goals?
Okay, so I hate to read on camera because it always seems so stilted, but in light of the fact that I will run out of time and I have these tips from advocates, I'm just going to read a few because they all really resonate with me as I've worked with many, many families. One is, and again, we speak primarily to the parent, but if you're an individual with a disability yourself here today, kudos to you. And I hope that you will feel free to contact us. We work with individuals themselves, with the young person, with teenagers. We're here for you. The one thing that I'll share is trust your gut. In general, we find that parent concerns are often legitimate, especially if they have good inputs. Like PACER is a neutral, objective place that you can call to say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I think, am I on track here? But trust that gut. If you're concerned, check it out. If you think something's not right, there must be something wrong here, or this, isn't available, take that step, trust your gut. You're most often, the vast majority of times, you are the expert on your child. Other people have expertise in their fields. Nobody else has the long range history or cares as much or has the ability to just focus on one person. So trust your gut, check it out, and PACER or an organization like the Disability Hub or a disability specific organization, Autism Society, Down Syndrome Association, can help you get feedback on that gut feeling of something's not wrong. Here's another tip. A way to frame this is that that you and your son or daughter need to, kind of adopt this. Disability is not going to be an excuse, but it is an explanation. So people who understand their strengths, challenges, needs, and preferences, in general, all of us do better when we become self-aware and we're able then to ask for what we need. Here's a little tip from me, which is I realized early on in all of this transition planning stuff that while it's true that, things are clear in the rearview mirror, like if I could do it all over again, be a lot clearer to me what I should have done. But also on that little mirror, it says, and things are closer than they appear. So don't wait. Just take the first step. That's all you have to take. And research shows that if you're concerned about something, if you just take one step, like I'm going to call PACER and say, I don't know what I'm doing here. You feel better immediately, and it gives you energy to take the next step. Just a couple of other things: connect with like-minded families, with disability-specific organizations, and with your state's parent training center and other organizations to be a strengths and opportunities finder. That is huge. While it's important, again, to close the gaps and deficits, and we want to work hard to get all the help that an individual can get, it's much more essential to identify those strengths, again, not just from skills, but from who the person is, and start building off the foundation of the strengths rather than a wobbly foundation of trying to correct, abilities or fix a problem and avoid looking at fixing a person, because people don't need to be fixed. They need to be supported. One more, I already said this one. If you're the parent or an key adult who plays the primary support role, you get used to being the case manager. I have to talk so many parents off the cliff of, I just don't want to jump through all these hoops. And I say, sorry, this is all hoop jumping. You have to fill out the forms. And when you get a renewal, they don't care that you're busy right now. If you don't send it back in, they might stop your services. It's, just get over that. And I try to encourage them that the outcome of that is usually really helpful. I'm glad for all the hoop jumping we've done, because it's provided the supports and services that have allowed our son and many other families, individual, to achieve their dreams. And last but not least, this was a piece of advice: keep the end in mind. Again, try to do backwards planning from get a vision for the future through PACER has a great template that you can fill in online to communicate to the school and everybody else what your goals for the future are, what their preferences, strengths, and interests are, what the impact of their disability is, and person-centered planning resources we can share with you. Disability Hub has stuff on charting the life, the course, and other materials that I'm sure Lauren can talk to you about. That's key. Get a vision for the future, capture it, and then communicate that in a way that you will develop a team that can surround you as the individual in launching out towards those wonderful aspirations for a future where you get to live, learn, work, and contribute to your community.
Absolutely. Very well said, Barb. Very well said. And yeah, we do. PACER has great tools for future planning on their site. And as on Disability Hub MN, we have those starting the life course tools, which are great for laying down what your vision is for a good life and how you want to get there, and planning for those goals. So I encourage people who are interested and maybe motivated right now to do that, to go check those tools out if they're interested in planning for the future. But as of right now, our time is up. Just sad, but we're very grateful for your time today, Barb. This event is going to be available on our Facebook page as a video. So if you'd like to share it with others, you can go ahead and do so. If you want more information about PACER, there's going to be links in the comments for you to go check out some of PACER's details and tools and things. And if you think this event was helpful and want to see more things like it, let us know in the comments. But thank you everyone for being here, and especially Barb, thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks so much, Lauren, and everybody keep hope alive, and make it a goal to contact maybe PACER Center this year to find out how we can support you in reaching your dreams.
As an agency, we work with all types of folks. So we work with people with disabilities, all disabilities. There's no limitations based on, eligibility. We work with people who support disabilities, as well as providers who provide services. And we are a free statewide resource. So we are absolutely 100% free, and you can call us anytime, chat with us on the phone, or email us. We are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. Otherwise, we will get back to you in the next business day. Our number is 1-866-333-2466. And you can find us on the website, www.disabilityhubmn.org. So thank you so much for being here, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.